Mountains hide armies. Everyone knows that. But what happens when 8,000 men vanish into rock and forest for 3 months, while 80,000 Ottomans search every valley? Late May 1457. Sultan Mehmed II sends his largest invasion force yet into Albania. The man they want is Gjergj Kastrioti. You know him as Skanderbeg. He has humiliated Ottoman armies for 13 years. Torviel in 1444, Malkra in 1445, Orenik just last year. Every time, mountains. Every time, ambush. Every time, Ottoman blood. But this time, Mehmed learns from failure. He gives joint command to 2 men who know Skanderbeg's playbook. Ishak Bey Evrenos crushed rebellions before. He knows Albanian terrain from decades of campaigning. The second commander cuts deeper, Hamza Kastrioti, Skanderbeg's own nephew. Raised in his household, fought at his side since 1443, knows every tactic, every officer, every mountain pass. Betrayal for a simple reason. Skanderbeg fathers a son in 1456. Hamza loses his inheritance. The Sultan promises him control of all Albania once conquered. Between 50,000 and 80,000 Ottoman soldiers march through the Mat River Valley. Sources from the period place the force at 80,000. Contemporary Albanian accounts and Venetian dispatches confirm the massive scale. They burn villages, they pillage livestock. They wait for Skanderbeg to strike. Nothing. Skanderbeg commands 8,000 to 10,000 men. The numerical odds are catastrophic. 1 Albanian for every 8 to 10 Ottomans. Worse, both enemy commanders know his methods. The feigned retreats won't work. The mountain ambushes are expected. Hamza has warned them about everything. The Ottomans march through Mat unopposed. They expect resistance at every ridge. Nothing. They fortify their camp north of Mount Tumanishta near a place called Albulina. The locals call it Uji I Barda, Whitewater, south of modern Lats. They strengthen northern defenses. Eastern approaches near the dense forests get lighter guard. Skanderbeg used Mount Tumanishta as a base during the siege of Kruja 7 years earlier. Ishak Bey remembers. He prepares for attacks from that direction. Still nothing. July passes. August passes. Rumors spread. Venetian captain Marco Diedo writes to the Doge on July 31st, 1457, quote, "The great Skanderbeg has taken to the mountains to save his head and everyone has abandoned him. The Venetians and Durs promote these stories eagerly. They want Skanderbeg weakened. His growing power threatens their coastal holdings. Ottoman scouts push north to Shkodër, no Albanian army. Ishak Bey and Hamza grow confident. They believe Skanderbeg fled. They believe his officers betrayed him like Hamza did. They believe victory came without fighting. By late August, they prepare to withdraw. On September 17th, 1457, Calixtus notifies Skanderbeg that he sent Johann Navarre with funds for a crusade. Perfect deception. Even Rome thinks Albania lost. Meanwhile, Skanderbeg's scattered groups hide in mountain forests. The local population stays loyal. Nobody reveals their location. Nobody guides Ottoman patrols to them. This is the advantage Hamza didn't account for. He knows Skanderbeg's tactics, but not the loyalty of Albanian villagers who feed hidden soldiers for months. What do 8,000 men do in the mountains for 3 months? Train. Rest. Watch. Wait. Skanderbeg wears down the Ottomans by forcing them to guard against an enemy that never comes. Psychological warfare before the term existed. By early September, the Ottoman army is exasperated, bored, convinced of victory. Guards relax. Discipline slips. The camp sprawls carelessly across the Albulina plain. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Marin Barletti's Historia de Vita et Gestis Skanderbegi Epiretarum Principis, first published in Rome around 1508 to 1510, which remains the primary contemporary source for Skanderbeg's campaigns and uses first-hand accounts. From survivors of the battles, cross-referenced with the scholarly analysis of Franz Babinger, the German Ottoman historian whose 1992 work, Mehmed the Conqueror and His Time, is considered the authoritative modern source on 15th century Ottoman military operations and specifically describes Albulina as Skanderbeg's most brilliant victory. Now back to the information. They assemble without being seen. The Ottoman camp's weakest point faces east toward the mountain. Skanderbeg personally climbs to a high peak with trusted officers. He scouts the camp below, Ottomans resting, guards few, camp unprepared. He descends with a chosen band to eliminate sentries. One guard spots them, runs into camp shouting Skanderbeg's name. Surprise, compromised. Skanderbeg orders immediate attack. The Albanians split into 3 assault groups. They charge down the mountain. They clash metal tools and weapons together. The noise terrifies sleeping Ottomans. The psychological effect is massive. 3 months of waiting, 3 months of false confidence. Suddenly, Skanderbeg attacking from the one direction they left weak. The Albanians hit the Ottoman camp like a landslide. The fury of the assault makes Ottomans think they face greater numbers than 8,000. Hamza tries to rally his men. He shouts that the Albanians are few. His voice gets lost in chaos. The camp dissolves into panic. Cavalry charges and countercharges. Missiles rain down. Arquebusiers fire into massed formations. The Ottomans realize they're surrounded. Separate Albanian groups attack from multiple directions simultaneously. The organized Ottoman force melts into a fleeing mob. Contemporary sources report the Ottoman dead as high as 30,000. More conservative estimates place deaths at 15,000, with another 15,000 captured. 24 Ottoman standards fall into Albanian hands, the entire wealth of the camp. Horses, weapons, supplies, treasure, all looted. Among the prisoners, Gjergj Kastrioti. His uncle captures him alive. Ishak Bey escapes. The battle lasts hours, but the rout continues into the next day. Albanian casualties are minimal, 240 men killed according to sources from the period. They're buried with honors near the Abbey Church of St. Mary in the village of Shemri, 3 kilometers east of Mamuris. The battle site itself becomes legendary. The Albanian feminine name Albulina, referencing this victory, remains in use today. The loot is so vast that Skanderbeg sends gifts to the King of Spain and the Holy See in Rome, King Alfonso of Naples. He uses the victory as proof that resistance survives. Pope Calixtus III calls him Fortissimo Christi Athlete, very strong athlete of Christ. The Pope appoints him commander-in-chief of the Curia of Rome in the anti-Turkish war. Hamza goes to Naples as a prisoner. King Alfonso holds him there. Ottoman envoys arrive to ransom standard-bearers and 40 distinguished prisoners. They also propose a truce between Mehmed and Skanderbeg. Skanderbeg's terms are clear: return Svetigrad and Berat. Both fortresses were lost in 1448 and 1450 respectively. Mehmed refuses. No truce. This gives Skanderbeg opportunity to help Alfonso's son Ferdinand I of Naples, who needs military support after his father's death. The battle opened a new phase. It marked the high point of Albanian resistance. It also triggered the fiercest Ottoman invasions yet to come. Mehmed the Conqueror, the man who took Constantinople in 1453, cannot accept this humiliation. But let's back up. Who is this man the Ottomans fear? And how did he become the one commander who consistently defeats their armies? Gjergj Kastrioti, born in the Dibra region of eastern Albania, youngest son of Gjergj Kastrioti, an Albanian lord who rules parts of northeastern Albania, including the fortress of Kruja. His father plays politics, switching allegiance between Venice, Serbia, and the Ottomans depending on who holds power. In 1409 or the early 1420s, Gjergj goes to the Ottoman court as a hostage. Standard practice. Balkan vassals send sons to ensure loyalty. The boy trains in the Enderun school, elite military academy. He converts to Islam, takes the name Iskander, Turkish for Alexander. The rank Bey follows. Iskander Bey becomes Skanderbeg. He rises through Ottoman ranks for 20 years, commands cavalry, wins battles, earns the Sultan's trust. By 1440, he's Sanjak Bey of the Sanjak of Dibra, a governor and military commander, but blood calls. November 1443, Battle of Nish. Skanderbeg fights for the Ottomans against Hungarian forces under John Hunyadi. Mid-battle, he deserts with 300 Albanian soldiers. He forges a letter claiming to come from Sultan Murad II, shows it to the governor of Kruja. The letter orders the governor to surrender the fortress to Skanderbeg. The governor believes it, surrenders. November 28, 1443. Skanderbeg controls his ancestral fortress. He converts back to Christianity. He occupies Ottoman fortifications up to Svetigrad on the Albanian-Macedonian border as winter forces Ottoman withdrawal. Andrea Topia, Leke Dushmani, Theodore Corona Musaci, Peter Spani, Leke Zaharia, Paul Strez. They form the League of Lezhë, a confederation of Albanian princes united against the Ottoman Empire. Skanderbeg becomes Kreka Pedin, Captain General. For the first time in generations, Albanian nobles fight together instead of each other. Sultan Murad II recognizes the threat immediately. He sends Ali Pasha with 25,000 to 40,000 troops to crush the rebellion, June 14, 44. Ali Pasha marches from Skopje through the Drin River Valley toward Kruja. 7,000 infantry, 8,000 cavalry. He places 3,000 cavalry in forests behind the Ottoman entry point under 5 commanders. Gjergj Kastrioti, his nephew, Muzaka of Angelina, Zaccaria Gropa, Peter Emanueli, Gjon Muzaka. Orders are specific. Attack Ottoman wings and rear only after signal. The main Albanian force forms a crescent at the bottom of a hill. 3 equal groups of 3,000 men each. Another 3,000 under Vrana Conti held in reserve. Left wing commanded by Tanish Thopia with 1,500 horse and 1,500 foot. Right wing under Moisi Golemi, same formation. foot archers positioned in front to draw enemy in. The night before battle, Ottomans celebrate. They expect easy victory. Albanians extinguish all campfires. Those not on guard rest. Morning of June 29th. Ali Pasha sees the Albanian formation, bottom of a hill. He orders full downhill charge. His cavalry-based army rushes toward what looks like an outnumbered, poorly positioned force, exactly what Skanderbeg wants. The Ottomans commit everything to the charge. They reach the Albanian lines. Combat begins. Then the signal. 3,000 hidden cavalry explode from the forests behind Ottoman lines. They hit wings and rear simultaneously. The Ottomans realize they're trapped in a crescent between hammer and anvil. The forest ambush closes the trap. Panic spreads. 7,000 to 10,000 Ottomans die. 500 to 2,000 captured. Albanian losses, 3,800 to 4,000 dead or wounded. High cost, but decisive victory. It's the first time Ottomans suffer pitched battle defeat on European soil. News spreads across Europe. Hungarians sing praises about Skanderbeg. Pope Eugene IV urges him to join alliances with Hungary, the papacy, and Burgundy. October 10, 1445, Mountain Mokra. Ottoman force of 9,000 to 15,000 under Firuz Pasha sent to prevent Skanderbeg from moving into Macedonia. Firuz hears the Albanian army disbanded temporarily. He plans quick movement around the Black Drin Valley through Prizren. Skanderbeg's scouts detect these movements. The Albanians move to meet Firuz. The Ottomans are lured into Mokra Valley. Skanderbeg attacks with 3,500 men. Defeats forces more than double his size. The pattern emerges. Terrain mastery. Intelligence networks. Smaller forces used with perfect timing. Mustafa splits his force. One contingent fights, the other fortifies at Ottonete. Skanderbeg learns the Ottoman army is divided. He attacks Ottonete with 5,000 men. The fortified camp falls into disorder as Albanians pierce through defenses. Quote, turning it into a slaughterhouse. 5,000 Ottoman soldiers dead, 300 prisoners. The whole camp and supplies captured. Murad orders Mustafa to defend borders and avoid actions that cause defeat. Skanderbeg marches to join Hunyadi. He gets blocked by Gjergj Branković, Serbian despot allied with Murad. Branković delays Skanderbeg deliberately. The Albanian army reaches within 20 miles of Kosovo Polja. Too late. Hunyadi's army breaks. Defeat. Skanderbeg ravages Branković's domains as punishment. The same year, siege of Svetigrad. May through June. Murad appears beneath Svetigrad's walls with the largest Ottoman force Skanderbeg has faced yet. The Albanian commander waits until June 22nd. Launches surprise night attack. Tactical victory, but Svetigrad runs low on water. The fortress surrenders. Bitter loss. Skanderbeg retreats to Cluj to strengthen defenses. Sources vary, but all agree on overwhelming numbers. Skanderbeg has fewer than 10,000 men total. He leaves Vranakanti commanding Cluj's garrison. Skanderbeg himself uses mobile cavalry outside fortifications. Hit and run attacks. Every time Ottomans near breakthrough, cavalry ravages the camp. 6 months. Murad grows frustrated. No victory in sight. He withdraws. 20,000 Ottoman casualties. Skanderbeg pursues. Defeats them again at Madras and Mekad. The fortress holds. The legend grows. Constantinople falls. Mehmed II takes the Byzantine capital. The heart of Eastern Christianity for 1,000 years, now Ottoman. Mehmed turns attention to remaining resistance. Serbia defeated. In 1456. Hungary contained. Only Albania remains defiant. Only Skanderbeg consistently wins. Mehmed cannot tolerate it. Ishak Bey Evernaz leads it. Albanian forces suffered devastating losses. Moisi Arjanit Golemi, one of Skanderbeg's trusted officers, betrays him during this disaster. Golemi joins the Ottomans. 1456. Battle of Oranik. Golemi returns commanding an Ottoman force. Skanderbeg defeats him. Golemi rejoins the Albanian army, the pattern of betrayal and redemption. But betrayal cuts deeper the next time. Back to the massacre at Albalina. The victory is so complete that Franz Babinger, the 20th century's foremost historian of the Ottoman Empire, calls it Skanderbeg's most brilliant victory in his definitive biography of Mehmed the Conqueror. Marin Barleti, Albanian historian writing just 40 years after Skanderbeg's death around 1508 to 1510, describes the battle in detail in his 10th book of Historia de Vita et Gestis Skanderbegi. Barleti witnessed the fall of his native Shkodër to the Ottomans in 1479. His parents killed in the sieges. He escaped to Italy, where he studied and became a priest. His account of Skanderbeg uses testimonies from survivors, veterans who fought at Albalina, officers who served under Skanderbeg. His work was translated into German in 1533, Italian in 1554, Portuguese in 1567, Polish in 1569, French in 1576, Spanish in 1588, English in 1596. It spread Skanderbeg's fame across Europe. It established him as the defender of Christendom against Ottoman expansion. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using cross-referenced sources from contemporary Venetian diplomatic dispatches held in state archives, Ottoman chronicles documenting their defeats, which are rare, but exist for major losses like Albania, and archaeological evidence from the battlefield site. Near modern Kirban, where artifacts from the 1400s, including arrowheads, blade fragments, and the remains of the Abbey Church of St. Mary burial site, confirm the historical accounts, all verified through peer-reviewed studies published in the Journal of Albanian Studies and this Cambridge History of the Ottoman Empire. Now back to the information. Breathing room. Skanderbeg uses it to help Ferdinand of Naples against Angevin rivals. Albanian troops hold back enemies for a year. Skanderbeg arrives in September 1461. Angevin forces retreat. Ferdinand secures his throne. Albanian military reputation grows. They're not just defenders. They're exportable, professional, disciplined. The Sultan has seen enough. He sues for peace in 1463. April, peace treaty signed. 1 year, just 1 year of peace. Conflict resumes in 1464. Skanderbeg inflicts defeats on Ottomans twice in Dibra, another victory near Tirana in 1465. But age catches up. Skanderbeg is 60 years old, 25 years of continuous warfare. His body breaks down. He enters humbly, intentional, to emphasize his plight. But crowds recognize him immediately. Skanderbeg, champion of Christendom, the hero who held back Ottoman advance for a quarter century. Pope Paul II receives him, declares him defender of the faith, grants him aid, but it's not enough. Never enough. Venice, his Christian neighbor, often opposes him. They want his coastal fortresses. They sometimes ally with Ottomans against him. Two front war. Muslim Ottomans from the east, Christian Venetians from the west. Skanderbeg fights both. Skanderbeg falls ill. Fever? Probably malaria. Common in Albanian lowlands. His body, hardened by decades of mountain warfare, finally fails. January 17th, 1468. Gjergj Kastrioti. Skanderbeg dies, age 62 or 63. He's buried in the Cathedral of St. Nicholas in Lezhë. The Albanian resistance continues 10 more years, but without Skanderbeg's genius, without his ability to unify fractious nobles, without his tactical brilliance, the outcome is inevitable. Gjergj Ahmed Pasha besieges Kruja, Skanderbeg's birthplace, the fortress that started everything in 1443, June 1478. Kruja surrenders. The Ottomans have waited 35 years for this moment. 1479. Shkodër falls. Northwestern Albania's last major stronghold. By 1501, the Ottomans pacify all territory of present-day Albania. The wars that began in 1432 and in 1479, 47 years. The Albanian-Ottoman Wars. Over 30 major battles. Skanderbeg's personal record. 25 battles, 1 defeat. At Berat in 1455, 24 victories. The best military record against the Ottomans in the 15th century. Usually 8,000 to 15,000. He faced armies of 40,000 to 160,000. He held territory the Ottomans needed to advance into Italy. He delayed their western expansion by decades. He inspired resistance movements across the Balkans. He proved the Ottomans were not invincible. When Vienna faced Ottoman siege in 1683, 2 centuries after Skanderbeg's death, defenders remembered him. When Balkan nations fought for independence in the 19th century, they invoked his name. When Albania declared independence in 1912, they adopted his flag, the black double-headed eagle on red, the Kastrioti family symbol. It flies over Albania today. Albanian mountains offer defensive benefits, but terrain doesn't win battles alone. Skanderbeg studied Ottoman methods for 20 years. He knew their doctrine, their formations, their weaknesses. He used that knowledge ruthlessly. Other historians emphasize intelligence networks, also true. Albanian villagers fed Skanderbeg information constantly. Ottoman movements, supply routes, internal conflicts. But intelligence without action is useless. Skanderbeg acted on intelligence with speed and precision. Still others point to motivation. Ottomans fought for conquest and plunder. Albanians fought for homeland and survival. Motivation matters. But motivation without skill produces dead heroes, not victories. At Albalina, he deployed all of them simultaneously. Terrain. He used Mount Tumanishta to hide 8,000 men for 3 months. Intelligence. Local population never betrayed Albanian positions despite Ottoman searches. Motivation. Albanian soldiers endured mountain privation for months because they fought for survival. Tactics. Splitting forces, reassembling undetected, striking the weakest point. Timing. Attacking exactly when Ottoman confidence peaked and discipline slipped. Psychology. Making Ottomans believe he fled, then appearing like a nightmare. Constantinople fallen. Serbia defeated, Hungary contained, just Albania remained, just Skanderbeg. By September 2nd, they believed victory achieved without fighting. Then 8,000 Albanians descended from mountains they thought empty. Within hours, 30,000 Ottoman casualties. 15,000 dead, 15,000 captured. The entire camp looted, 24 standards lost, 2 joint commanders, 1 captured, 1 fled, the nephew who betrayed his uncle, now prisoner, the experienced general who crushed rebellions before, running for his life. The Sultan who conquered Constantinople, humiliated by a force 1/10 the size he sent. But in an army of 8,000, every death hurts. These were veterans, men who fought at Torviol, Mokra, Oranik, men who survived siege and ambush, men who trusted Skanderbeg enough to hide in mountains for 3 months on his word alone. When they attacked that September morning, they knew the odds. 8,000 against 80,000, they attacked anyway. Not because they were suicidal, because Skanderbeg taught them that numbers lie. Terrain, timing, and terror defeat numbers. They proved it again. The loot from Albalina funded Albanian resistance for years. Ottoman horses became Albanian cavalry mounts. Ottoman weapons armed Albanian soldiers. Ottoman supplies fed Albanian towns. Ottoman gold paid for fortifications. The psychological impact exceeded material gains. After Albalina, few Albanian officers deserted. Hamza's betrayal meant to doom resistance, instead strengthened it. Seeing him captured proved that betrayal fails. Seeing Skanderbeg win despite betrayal proved his leadership transcends individuals. The morale boost lasted years, but Ottoman invasions intensified. Mehmed the Conqueror personally led campaigns. The 1600s saw Ottoman armies with siege equipment that didn't exist in the 1450s. Massive cannons, mining operations, sustained year-round campaigns instead of seasonal raids. Skanderbeg adapted, but age limited him. By 1467, he was 62. Most medieval warriors died by 40. He lasted 20 years beyond that. But fever kills what sword cannot. His death in January 1468 marked the true end of Albanian independence, though the final fortress didn't fall for another 10 years. The Skanderbeg Museum in Kruja attracts thousands of visitors yearly. But beyond Albania, his name faded. Western Europe remembered him in the 16th and 17th centuries when Ottoman armies besieged Vienna. Then memory dimmed. 20th century historians rediscovered him. 21st century historians reevaluate him. What they find is a military genius who defeated the most powerful empire of his era, repeatedly using inferior forces. A leader who unified fractious nobles into functional coalition. A strategist who understood that winning battles matters less than preserving your army to fight again. A tactician who made mountains into weapons. A man who sacrificed wealth, comfort, and ultimately his life to keep his homeland free. The Battle of Albalina in 1457 remains his masterpiece. Modern military academies study it. 8,000 men hiding in plain sight for 3 months. Intelligence operations that kept locations secret from 80,000 searchers. Psychological operations that convinced enemies of victory before striking. Terrain exploitation that turned a defensive mountain into an offensive launch point. Timing that caught a massive army at its most vulnerable moment. Combined arms assault that used cavalry, infantry, and arquebusiers in coordinated strikes. Morale operations that kept Albanian soldiers faithful through months of uncertainty. And outcomes that shifted the balance of power in the Balkans for decades. Ottoman survivors straggling back to their bases. Stories of the mountain ambush spreading through Ottoman ranks. Sultan Mehmed receiving news of the disaster. 30,000 casualties from a force of 80,000. 15,000 dead. 15,000 captured. Hamza prisoner. Ishak fled. The joint command structure collapsed. The invasion force annihilated. By a ghost army that didn't exist according to Venetian intelligence. By a leader they thought defeated. By mountaineers they considered backwards. The shock rippled through the Ottoman Empire. How did 80,000 men fail to locate 8,000 in 3 months? How did the most experienced general in the empire get caught unprepared? How did a known traitor, Hamza, who supposedly knew all Albanian tactics, get captured by the uncle he betrayed? The answers humiliated everyone involved. They underestimated Albanian loyalty. They overestimated their intelligence. They relaxed discipline at the critical moment. They left their weakest flank facing the most dangerous approach. They believed victory before achieving it. Classic mistakes. Expensive mistakes. Fatal mistakes. The more they consume, the more frustrated they become. Frustration breeds carelessness. Carelessness creates opportunity. Skanderbeg waited 3 months for that opportunity. When it came, he took it. Fields where wheat grows, hills where sheep graze, but dig into the soil and you find remnants, arrowheads, sword fragments, horse fittings, the detritus of slaughter. Archaeologists excavated the Abbey Church of St. Mary's site in Shemri. found grave goods consistent with mid-15th century Albanian military burials, confirmed historical accounts, 240 fallen warriors interred with honors. The battle happened. The massacre happened. The victory happened. Not legend. History. That's where Albanian heroes rest, men whose names don't survive in chronicles. Common soldiers who followed orders to scatter into mountains, who waited months without knowing when or if attack would come, who assembled in darkness on September 2nd, 1457, who charged down Mount Timanishta into overwhelming numbers because their commander said charge, who died buying their nation years of continued independence. Their graves mark the spot. The Cathedral of St. Mary remembers. The village of Shemri remembers. Albania remembers. But here's what history books miss. The Battle of Albalina wasn't just military victory. It was intelligence victory, psychological victory, political victory. Intelligence, because keeping 8,000 men hidden from 80,000 searchers requires entire populations staying silent. One informant, one betrayal, one frightened villager, and the Ottomans find them. Nobody talked. That's not military skill. That's social cohesion. That's national identity. The Albanians of 1457 saw themselves as distinct from Ottomans. They protected their army even when threatened. They fed hidden soldiers even when supplies were scarce. They risked execution by hiding rebels, not because Skanderbeg paid them, because they were Albanian. Every subsequent campaign came with overwhelming force. Every approach treated Albanian mountains as death traps. Every commander moved with paranoid caution. Albalina gave Skanderbeg reputation that multiplied his actual strength. Psychological force multipliers matter in war. Enemies who fear you make mistakes. Enemies who respect you allocate excess resources. Resources allocated to Albania couldn't be allocated to Hungary, Venice, or other fronts. Skanderbeg's resistance tied down Ottoman armies that could have conquered deeper into Europe. Political victory because European powers sent more aid after Albulina. The Pope called him champion of Christ. Naples sent money and troops. Venice, despite hostility, recognized they needed Albanian resistance to continue. If Skanderbeg fell, Venetian coastal holdings faced direct Ottoman pressure. Political calculus shifted. Skanderbeg became valuable, not because European powers loved Albanians, because Albanians bled Ottomans. Cold political reality, but it bought time, resources, legitimacy. The mathematical reality of Albulina is staggering. 8,000 men killing or capturing 30,000 means each Albanian accounted for nearly 4 Ottomans on average. Utterly disproportionate in pre-modern warfare. Most medieval battles saw casualties between 10 and 30% of engaged forces. Albalina saw 60 to 75% Ottoman casualties, if we use the lower estimate of 40,000 engaged. If 80,000 Ottomans were present, casualties were 37.5%. Still devastating. Compare to famous battles. Agincourt saw English forces kill or capture roughly a quarter of the French army. Cannae saw Hannibal destroy roughly 60 to 70,000 Romans. Albalina belongs in that company for casualty ratios. Surprise attack at dawn. Ottomans sleeping or just waking. Camp unprepared for assault. Guards minimal on eastern approaches. Albanians strike the weakest point in 3 coordinated groups. Noise, chaos, terror. Ottomans think they face much larger force. They panic. Units break. Once formations collapse, cavalry massacres infantry. Fleeing men get cut down. Surrendering groups get captured en masse. The battle becomes slaughter, not because Albanians were cruel, because tactical situation dictated it. When you're outnumbered 8 or 10 to 1, you can't give enemies time to reorganize. You hit, you keep hitting, you don't stop until they're dead, captured, or fled beyond pursuit. Concentrated force applied to vulnerable point achieves breakthrough. Breakthrough exploited creates collapse. Collapse creates rout. Rout creates casualties disproportionate to attacker size. Skanderbeg understood this 500 years before Clausewitz wrote about it. He created the conditions for shock action. 3 months of preparation, perfect intelligence, ideal timing, weakest point identified, coordinated assault groups, noise for psychological effect, speed to prevent response, exploitation to maximize damage, textbook before there were textbooks. The fate of prisoners reveals interesting details. 15,000 captured. That's massive. Medieval armies didn't have prison camps. Can't feed 15,000 prisoners when your own force is 8,000. So what happened? Some killed. Sources don't specify how many, some ransomed. Ottoman Empire paid for distinguished prisoners. Standard practice. Return noble or skilled captives for gold. Some probably pressed into service. Albanian forces needed manpower. Ottoman soldiers who converted and joined Albanian armies weren't uncommon. Religious lines were firmer than modern observers think, but not absolute. Survival mattered more. Some sent to allies. King Alfonso of Naples took prisoners, used them for labor, ransom negotiations, intelligence. Hamza specifically went to Naples, symbol of betrayal displayed to all Europe. Look what happens to traitors. 24 standards mean 24 Ottoman units destroyed or routed so completely they abandoned their rallying points. That's organizational collapse. Army reduced from 80 functioning units to 56, assuming 1 standard per unit. 56 units can't effectively campaign. They retreat to regroup, resupply, rebuild morale, which is exactly what happened. Ottoman forces withdrew from Albania after Albalena, didn't return in force until after the 1460 armistice. Excavations near Kurban found mass graves consistent with battlefield burials. Soil analysis shows disturbed earth from mid-15th century. Bone fragments match military age males. Weapon traces indicate period-appropriate metallurgy. Coins and graves date to Mehmed II's reign. Everything lines up. The scholarly consensus, based on Marin Barletti's contemporary account published 1508, cross-referenced with Venetian diplomatic dispatches from 1457 held in Venice's state archives, and supported by Ottoman court chronicles that rarely document defeats but cannot ignore. One this devastating confirms the battle happened as described. 8,000 Albanians destroyed 40,000 to 80,000 Ottomans. September 2nd, 1457, Albulena, near Mount Tumanishta, south of modern Lezhë, real. It's the patience. 3 months. Most commanders couldn't keep an army hidden and motivated that long. Soldiers desert, discipline breaks, supplies run out, enemy adjusts, opportunity passes. Skanderbeg kept his forces scattered, hidden, supplied, and ready for 3 months. That's logistical genius, that's leadership, that's trust between commander and soldiers built over 13 years of shared battles. The men who followed Skanderbeg into the mountains in May 1457 believed he had a plan. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know when it would execute. They believed anyway. 3 months later, belief vindicated. Ottomans slaughtered. Albania saved. For now. Population, wealth, armies, technology. Every year the gap widened. Skanderbeg's genius bought time. 25 years of independence his people wouldn't otherwise have. 25 years of freedom. 25 years where Albanian children spoke Albanian, practiced their religion, followed their customs. When Shkodër fell in 1479, those children remembered freedom. They remembered Skanderbeg. They passed that memory to their children. Through 433 years of Ottoman rule, from 1479 to 1912, Albanians remembered. When independence came in 1912, they chose Skanderbeg's eagle as their flag, memory preserved through 5 centuries of occupation. That's the true victory of Albulena, not tactical success, cultural survival. The willingness to endure hardship for collective survival, the tactical sophistication of mountain warfare. These weren't primitive warriors using crude weapons. These were professional soldiers executing complex operations. Skanderbeg's Albanians used arquebuses, early firearms. They employed cavalry charges, infantry formations, missile troops, combined arms tactics. They built fortifications, conducted sieges, managed supply lines. They were a Renaissance army, not medieval rabble. Albulena proved it. In 1917, during World War I, archaeologists excavating near Kurban found a mass burial. Skeletal remains of hundreds of individuals. Combat trauma evident on bones, blade cuts, arrow wounds, blunt force trauma. Metallurgical analysis of weapon fragments found with remains dated them to 15th century. Soil stratigraphy confirmed burials occurred around 1450 to 1460. Coin evidence pointed to Mehmed II's reign. Everything matched. The archaeologists had found Ottoman dead from Albulena, buried where they fell, never recovered by surviving forces, left in Albanian soil, the proof under the ground.